Welcome to TMI Today with Rita Boccuzzi and Jen Lee. In this podcast, there is no such thing as too much information. We are diving into all of the taboo topics, from money and careers to relationships and parenting, to whatever else we've been too afraid to discuss as women. Listen in and join the movement as we raise each other up in our everyday lives.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to TMI, where TMI, too much information, is never too much information because it stands for today's motivational insights. And we get to have fun with our guest, who's already giggling, if you could only see her, because she knows me too well. That's part of the problem, or part of the joy in this all, because we're here today. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I with? I'm Mama Rita, also known as Rita Boccuzzi, and I am here with Jen Lee. She is our financial stress relief attorney extraordinaire. So if you're ever in a pinch and you need somebody who's really going to connect with you and help you along a tough time in your finances to get you to the better time and see the light at the end of the tunnel and connect with that, that is Jen Lee. You're going to want to reach out to her. And I'm Mama Rita Money. I'm all things money, especially safe money to make you earn it, grow it, keep it. And today I don't even know how to do this introduction, in the sense of, we get to share. TMI is Today Motivational Insights, and this is near and dear to my heart. So I'm going to, I get excited about a lot of things, and I'm going to say I'm actually excited about this, but there's an aspect to this that's very, very personal. It's a very personal share. It's a very personal share from a very special guest. Sorry, I'm gonna almost get teary-eyed because when you go through tough times, you get to share. When you come out the other side, how do we do it? And I feel so blessed that I have my daughter-in-law, Rebecca Boccuzzi, here with the joy of our lives at this point. Antonio. So you may hear baby sounds in the background. And that's the joy at the end of the journey, right? And I'm going to say for Becca, it wasn't such an easy journey. And there's a topic we're going to talk about today that's hard. It's difficult. It's challenging. And I am using all those words. I always teach never use those words unless they are. And this was, and I'm talking about postpartum syndrome. It's a real thing. And I know a lot of people discount it or do say that it's not. And Becca and I'm just so thankful, Becca, for you being here today to share a message that's so vitally important and really life-saving for people who need to hear it, and how we got through it together, and just that journey. But you know what, Becca, I want you to share, besides being my fabulous daughter-in-law, can you imagine a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law getting along? Mm-hmm. So, and we have fun doing it, poking fun at each other. Do we agree on everything? No, right? But that's what makes the spice of life. Do we respect everybody and each other in every aspect of it? 100%. Yeah. So, Becca, thank you for being here. And I have the utmost admiration for my daughter-in-law. I was talking to somebody about you this morning, just so you know, Becca. And I was saying, you know what? Being a special education teacher takes a special person. Like, I talk about being saintly on earth, and it really, every special ed teacher in my book is a saint walking this earth, because because you are raising other people's children for them while they're going to work. Sometimes I know going to work would be way easier. So, and then here you're having this journey where you're bringing your own baby into the world. And what does that look like? So I want you to just maybe say hi and share a little bit about you, whatever you want to share in the world right now. And then maybe from that, just kind of share how you got to that journey that you had to go through, and how you got through it. And I'll probably ask questions, Jen might, and we'll just have this be a conversation amongst us girls to share with the other girls in the world that need to hear it. So welcome.
And you know what? I may need to get up here and there, just if he gets a little bit fussy. He's getting close to nap time and he's being a trooper.
No worries.
He's being a trooper. But Yeah, I guess I'll start from the beginning. I had a fairly uncomplicated and easy pregnancy, all things considered. I carried very well. I actually lost weight, which was, nice. Then by the end of it, I was getting very uncomfortable, a lot of pain. He's a mover, and he was a mover when I was pregnant. He was constantly kicking.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was always being kicked, and I wasn't sleeping, and I was in pain, and I could tell I was ready. Whether or not he was ready, I was ready. So the day of my due date, I went into the OB's office, and he asked me if I wanted to induce, and I'm like, yes, please. Let's go to the hospital and induce. So we went to the hospital. I was already contracting off and on, but they gave me, I think it's called Cytotec to start effacing. And they were going to give me that gradually within a 24-hour span, but it only took one dose to fully efface. And then I started dilating, and contractions were getting very frequent, like 2 minutes apart, very intense. So I got the epidural. Love the epidural. I'm a big fan of the epidural. And labor stalled at that point, and I labored all night. I kept changing positions, and ultimately they told me, yeah, I know, you remember. They told me that we could continue trying, but the best option would probably be to have a C-section, which made me really nervous. I cried. I was ready to push. I was ready to do the work. I was ready to tear. I was ready for it all, but that was not what happened. So I got, I know, it's a sad story. I got taken from my husband, and I went into the operating room and was just shaking so badly from the epidural and from just the terror that,
all of it.
I always say that this is a trigger warning for people that, have birth trauma, but when you have a C-section, you're not fully numb. You can actually feel the doctors poking, they're going to say you're going to feel some pressure. So it feels like someone's pushing on your stomach when they're inside of you. They're inside of you, taking parts of you out. And that was the part that I really wasn't prepared for. I knew that it was going to be a possibility, but I wasn't fully prepared for it. And then I heard the cry, and I didn't feel like I could fully enjoy that moment because I was so scared.
Yeah.
So he came out, he was healthy. I told my husband, we talked about the possibilities, and I said, no matter what happens, stay with the baby. So that's what he did. He stayed with the baby, and then I felt like I was alone again. So when we got home from the hospital, I didn't realize the full extent of that trauma until I was scared to be away from my husband. I was scared to be away from my baby. I wasn't sleeping because I was just scared to be away from them. And they would tell me, take a nap, go, we got it, take a nap. And I couldn't take a nap.
You couldn't turn off your brain? Is that what?
No, I was terrified. I was just scared.
Just scared. Okay.
I was just always scared. And it was, Rita, you might remember this, when Nona and Theo Frank came over to say hi to us and say hi to the baby. I sat on that couch like a shell of a person.
Yeah, she looked catatonic.
Yeah.
Just and I was leaning like this, like I didn't even have the strength to hold myself up.
Yeah.
And then I realized like something is wrong.
I do remember Like I remember. So from the mother-in-law's perspective, and Avery's wanting to get in the view. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
hi, Avery.
We're cat lovers, just for those of you that get to see this. So what ended up, from my perspective, I'm seeing this from the outside, and not, I've delivered and had C-section. By the way, it's like she went. There's differences in everything that's happening nowadays. Mothers going through COVID, right? And so there's this isolation there. And then the other thing that I felt that I noticed is that whole last month she had not been sleeping, right? So if you think about sleep deprivation on a person who's healthy, right, and working, you're in a state, we're not even talking about dealing with emotions. And then when you talk about it long term, over 30 days or a month, and then you get into labor. And for anybody that knows and goes into an OR, you are not sleeping. It is not quiet. A hospital is not a place. It is not a resort. It is, they're trying to.
I heard other women giving birth.
Oh, screaming in other rooms. So
yeah, and it was so exciting.
People, but you need to be prepared for these
things.
And so here she gets to the delivery, and then she gets home the first night. So now also visitors cannot go see you. They can only have the father and one other person. So we got to see the baby the day he came home, and Becca as well. And I could see something wasn't right. I knew she was absolutely, both of them were completely fatigued and tapped out, including my son, right? So the partner, because he's not sleeping because she's moving for a whole month, right? He's stressing and worrying about her. So this actually isn't just affecting Becca. It is affecting my son, obviously Becca greater, and my son doesn't know how to help Becca. None of us really do.
Right.
So that's kind of hard. I did see that first night. So my first thought was, do you want me to spend the night so I could spend some time with the baby? And at first she was like, no, I got this, because she really wanted to try hard. And then I got to see her a couple days later, and I'm like, do you want me to spend the night? And like she said, my brother and my mother noticed that she was in a pretty serious state, as did I. And I asked the question, and so this is for, going from both perspectives. What I got to do was I went from saying, do you want me to spend the night, to would you be okay with me spending the night? Right?
Yes.
Because she didn't want to impose on me. And that shift in the words, she was like, if you'd like to, that's okay. So this is the other thing that I like really commend Becca for, that even the fortitude or strength to say, yes, I need help. Yes, even if it's just a, yes, I'll let you stay.
Right.
Right. Not knowing what's possible or what we could do. So that was super big. When she said that, I also knew that there was way deeper problem. The one thing I get to share with her is that she doesn't have to do it alone. So to all the mamas out there, new mamas, the phrase, I'm watching Antonio raise his hand to this one. It takes a village. It does take a village. So Becca and I talked about, hey, postpartum planning. Not that you plan to have a postpartum problem, but in case you do, there should be a cheat sheet. And that cheat sheet should include a whole village of people that you or your spouse, if you're single, especially if you're single, going through this process, a village of people that can help you with different things. Call up and ask them ahead of time before you get there, and keep that list with their phone number so that you can hand it to a nurse. You can hand it to somebody if you can't do that. So, I got to be there, and I knew I started to call on my village because we didn't know this beforehand. So who's in my village? A postpartum coach. We talk about coaches all the time, right, Jen? Postpartum coach, postpartum therapist, your doctor, the pediatrician, if you already know it, who the pediatrician is going to be, parents and family. So it's not just in your household, friends, people from church, whatever. Start to do that trigger list, write them down, get their numbers down so that people can connect, and tell them ahead of time. It works better that way, because we ended up on a holiday weekend at one point, and we were needing help. And it was more trying to get people that were around. So, if that happens, that's another point. Like if there's a holiday coming around, find out who's staying in town. That can be your contact. So Becca, with all that, like when we go back to that time, and Jen, do you have any input? Like I like to make sure everybody, because this is like how the minds meet and almost mastermind about it. Did you have any input or
Other
any
than
thoughts?
it's good to share all the stories, because I think we all have an individual story of what happened, but hearing some of the things and also planning ahead. I didn't know what to expect either when I had my first, and it was a traumatic experience. So I think just knowing that it could be traumatic would have been helpful. So I agree that this is all good stuff to share.
I get that people want to protect us from things and we won't understand full impact and we got to go through things. But if you know to have a line of support, or, hey, this, like you described, the poking around would feel weird, and unnatural feeling. It's not painful per se, but it may disconnect you from the feeling of what's happening. And that in and of itself mentally is a very hard challenge to go through. So, so we did get some of the things in place, Becca. I'm wondering, like, for you, what did you find the most helpful? And what were the things that were that people thought might be good to help you with? Because I know nobody wants to talk about this, but if people don't know that it's not good, then they don't know what to do. And that's kind of like the scariest, that unknown. And so the helpful person trying to be helpful, but not really being helpful. So share with us some insights maybe around some of those things.
When I first realized that something was off, I was like really desperate to find a solution. I was calling postpartum hotlines. I was using some of the resources that Rita shared with me. She shared with me a life coach named Tanya, who helped me out a lot, she actually got me in touch with a social worker at Cedars-Sinai, who then got me in touch with an outpatient therapy intensive program specifically for postpartum mothers. So I did that for 6 weeks, 3 times a week, 3 hours a day. Very intensive therapy, going through trauma, going through post-traumatic stress, going through grief, because you do grieve when you become a mom. You grieve what you've lost. You haven't just gained a child, you have lost things. So that was incredibly helpful for me. I also did get prescribed Zoloft by my OBGYN. So I've been on that since Antonio was 2 weeks old.
And that wasn't without controversy, correct?
Oh God, no. Medication is not something that I ever want to toy with. I have a very long history in my family and in my generations of addiction. So that was not something that I took lightly, and still don't. So those were all the things that I found helpful. The most helpful thing for me was anyone who was willing to take care of Antonio. That's still one of the most helpful things for me, just because it gives me a break and helps me feel like the person that I was before he was born. Poor little thing. He's trying to stay awake right now. He's in the freaking swing, just looking at me like, Mom.
Come on, Mom, over. So one of the other things that I want to hit on the point is, so when I say that without controversy, is not even just your background, like even with your OB, right? Your primary OB wasn't really on board with that, as far as so into like you were breastfeeding and then going on medication. Some people have that concern. So I think what I want to get to the point is that you really have to find an OB that is okay with that, and a therapist that's okay and experienced with that. So that's another thing to add to the list in case it is essential, because, again, I don't take it lightly either. Medications can create side effects. I'm a super sensitive person, so I have to avoid as much medication or anything in my body at all costs because of reactions that I tend to have to pretty much every kind of medication. So to find the right physician. So if someone suggests something, have more than one consultation so that this way you can make your best decision around your story, because each one of us is individual. So I like that point as well.
I think it's also really helpful when you are in such an emotional state to make sure that you have an advocate.
Yeah.
To make sure that there is someone very close to you. Like for me, it was my husband, who could be the voice when you have trouble finding yours.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, I love all of these points. I hope, I don't know if you have any other thoughts that you want to share around this, that might be any tips or any thoughts before we kind of go on. And I'm going to ask Jen the same thing. So that this way, really, there's three of us here thinking about this same topic and how we can best serve and help and support by sharing through our experiences. So any other last thoughts about that?
Yeah. Well, recovery is not linear. You are going to have moments where you backslide and you start feeling anxious again, like I did this weekend. I started feeling anxious about his feeding and his sleep. And after I thought that I'd made such progress, but I still am making progress. Just because you have flare-ups doesn't mean that anything is lost. It just means you're human.
Absolutely. That is, yeah, the humanness of it all, and allowing others to help you is super impactful. And I really appreciate that. I thought of one more thing that I wanted to share as advocacy. And of course, in true nature, it has fleeted my mind. But as we think about it, and when we post this, then we'll see what other information, any other tidbits that we add, or for anybody that's watching this or listening to this to share, because I know what it was. See, it always comes back just in the right time. The sleep piece, right? Because when you talked about advocacy, many people, there's night nurses out there. And if you're able to have that, hopefully someday, maybe even insurance will cover part of that, because really getting sleep, it's almost this full circle thing, is making sure you are healthy. And you said that, Becca, making sure you connect with who you are. Maybe friends that it's not just about taking care of in the, like a babysitting for the sake of, the mama going to a doctor's appointment, but maybe so that mom and dad can go out and connect in their relationship. Maybe so that mom and dad can go and connect with their friends again, and getting that semblance of self again, so that you can come back and be amazing for the child. And if night nursing is possible, it's, every friend that tells me about night nursing, loves it, because they help babies sleep train, which helps you get, again, more sleep, so that this way you can flourish and go out and have fun, right? And be you and be human, and enjoy the baby, let other people enjoy that, love your baby that and trust, love on him, because then, or her, so that they get all those experiences. So Jen, before I ask Becca the question, or if you want to ask her the question, any other thoughts?
No, I just appreciate you sharing, because I think that's the most important thing, is talking about this so people are aware of it. So I really appreciate that. But the final question is, so what's one fun fact about you that you'd want to share with the audience?
Oh, geez, Louise. Oh my gosh. I have so many things that are fun.
My favorite is that, oh my gosh, I forgot what song that she sings like a rock star.
Oh, karaoke queen.
She's a karaoke. And she
funny.
has an amazing voice, amazing singer. So yeah,
Cool.
we'll have to have her on something else. Maybe we'll create some kind of fun session. She'll have to belt one song out for us.
That would be awesome. So,
All right. So until then, make sure you take care. Self-care is so important. Self-care is not selfish. And, as like mamas going into pregnancies, mamas in this journey, maybe immediately postpartum and several months out, make sure you go and you have fun and take care of yourselves emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, and even on the financial side, getting prepped ahead of time so that that some of these incurring costs, so that those aren't triggers to trigger you, so that this way you can go out, have a glass of wine with your spouse or your friends and have fun and enjoy motherhood and each moment with your child. Thank you so much, Becca, for sharing today.
Thank you. Say good night, Antonio.
Good night, Antonio.
bye, Antonio.